welcome everybody. Today I'm going to be we're going to be talking to Professor Mntla. He's currently the HOD of Cardiology at SMU. So Prof has led in many positions here in SMU. If we go long back, you will hear many things. He has been the Deputy Dean of Student Affairs back in the 1997 to January. Then he also became the Director of School of Medicine, around 2005, 2009. And then by 2001, he became a professor, if I'm not mistaken. Prof, you will help me with the correction, of the interview. So he did study his medicine, MBCHB undergrad here at Makgatho University. Back then it was Medunsa. And then he furthered his FCSA College of Physicians at University of Wits. So currently we are honored by a big giant here, guys. We really need to appreciate Prof, and we're really looking forward to this interview. So Prof, welcome. Welcome to the talk.
Thank you very much. And I must say, I feel very much honored to be sharing some of my little experience with colleagues, some of whom I hope will take over one day when I shuffle into the sunset.
Yes. So Prof, just the background that you can take us through where you are from. I see that this is you went to some school in Gauteng for your matric. So are you from Gauteng, and did you, just from there you went to
Unfortunately, I mean, my brief background is as follows. I am born of my father, who had only grade 7, and my mother, who never set foot in any school. And I was born in Malmesbury in Cape Town. I grew up there until just before starting grade R, because unfortunately my father got ill, and the weather around Cape Town was not too kind to him. He had to change and go back home. And home being in Mthatha, small village there called Bazia, which, if one reads the history of South Africa, that's where some of the ardent PAC stalwarts come from. And I went to school in Bazia all the way up to standard 5, which is in Mthatha. And unfortunately at that time, my father's health started to deteriorate. And because he could no longer assist me to proceed and continue with my education, my mother took me to her father, my maternal grandfather, who was welcoming to have this young fellow to take care of, and he put me through standard 6 and Form 1, which nowadays would be, I think, your grade 8.
Yes.
And because, I don't know, God at times has his way. But if you come from a background like I am, he will somehow meet you halfway, if not more than halfway, and assist you to be able to quickly grasp and understand some of the challenges in education. And because of that, I was able to then get a bursary and I went to St. John's College, which is one of the schools which at the time was a prestigious school in Mthatha, then Transkei. So that's my brief background. And I was in that school, St. John's College, up to Form 5. Then after Form 5, because as you know, it became now difficult for my grandfather to assist me to proceed to university. I had to do one of two things. I had to work while studying at night in the, I think at the time, University of Transkei was in its second or third year. So I attended night classes for my BSc at the University of Transkei. And after having passed my first year, I was able to apply and be admitted to Medunsa, where I started in my second year, February 1980. And I was then a student at Medunsa up to end of November, December 1984, when I qualified with my MBCHP. And some of the things that I did when I was at the Medunsa was to be involved in some of the student leadership. I remember quite vividly when we started off the first branch at then Medunsa of Azaso, Azanian Student Organization. And before that, the other thing that I got involved in was we were very much perturbed and totally disgusted with what was happening at the institution, because we were the third group that came into medicine in 1980. The first one having come in 1978, second group in 79. We were disgusted to find that the student leadership was literally chosen by the university management. And when we came in, we said, over our dead bodies, shall we have leadership that is chosen by management and not by the student body themselves? So that's when then I became involved in the student leadership. And then we formed the first branch of Azanian Student Organization at Medunsa. I was the secretary with Dr. Mdaga, who's now the head of obstetrics and gynecology at the Walter Sisulu University. He was the chairperson. And it was at the time where we worked closely with the late Mulife Sefularo and Confidence Muluko, who were in the national executive of Azanian Student Organization. So that's my brief story. And having completed at Medunsa 84, here is something that is very interesting, which at times people find very amusing. I was supposed to go and work at Edendale Hospital, which is in KZN, just outside of Peter Maritzburg, for my internship. And this was chosen deliberately because certain activities of the ANC were happening around that area. So I was expected to join some of the colleagues there. And this is what happened to my amazement. When I got there, on the 30th, I remember quite well. 31st, we had a meeting with the superintendent, who was of a Scottish origin. And he told us in no uncertain terms that before we started, and if we were to be paid, because our salary was going to be coming from Ulundi, because strangely enough, Edendale Hospital was put under the KwaZulu management, whereas the closer hospital, Grace, was under the Natal administration. So we were supposed to be answering to Ulundi, and therefore we were expected to sign what was termed an Inkatha pledge. And being young at the time and very militant, I told myself I will never ever sign Inkatha pledge, because I didn't know what it meant, whether I was involuntarily joining Inkatha, because one of the things that underpinned that Inkatha pledge was for you to pledge that you would defend Inkatha and not speak ill of it in any public forum. So, and then I refused to do that. And the superintendent told me, if you don't, then you won't get paid. Then I said to him, because I don't work for charity, I think I need to see what else I do. And fortunately, at the time, I found out that there was still a post at Natal Spruit Hospital in Germiston. So I landed up in Germiston, having to leave Edendale Hospital. Then from Natal Spruit, I was fortunate enough that I met with Professor Harry Seftel, who at the time was the head of medicine at Wits, but based at Hillbrow Hospital. So he took a liking in this young fellow, being me, who was quizzing him about the management of hypertension, that he had come to deliver a lecture to us whilst we were at Natal Spruit. So then he insisted that I fill in an application form and come and specialize in medicine. And I think the rest is history, because then I joined University of Witwatersrand that way. And whilst I was there, some of the things that are very, very, very painful and are never shared with anybody is, one, because of Group Areas Act, I couldn't stay in Hillbrow in one of the flats there. I had to be accommodated within the hospital in a small place that didn't even have proper ablution systems. And you had to go and wash outside and come back to that little room. It was not even a bedroom, a little room that had a makeshift desk for studying. So that is the one thing. Then the second thing, a stone's throw away from us, was the now Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, where we were not allowed to be exposed to until, I think, as registrars in end of 1988 or 89, we decided that if we are not exposed to the pathology at the Joburg Gen Hospital, then those registrars who were appointed at Johannesburg Hospital should not have the opportunity to come and rotate at Hillbrow Hospital, nor at the then Coronation Hospital. So it was at that time that then the dean and the head of department decided to accede that we also could rotate at the Johannesburg Gen Hospital. And I think I was amongst the first people to rotate in that hospital when I did my cardiology and coronary care rotation. And there are many experiences that I can tell you about that, because at times in a clinic, you'd find one white fellow who doesn't want to be seen by this black young registrar because they didn't believe that I was a doctor good enough to look after their health. And then the other time, you would be sitting in the coronary care ICU looking after a sick patient.
Make sure that it's the right order number. Oh yes, she must say she's going to give you the slip when it's done. Eh? Okay, it's Mr. Super.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. That was the order that they have brought now.
Okay, Prof. It's okay. You may continue.
Yeah, so as I was saying, you're sitting in the ICU, you're looking after these mainly white patients, because at the time, there was not even a single black patient. And by black, I mean be it colored or Indian or African, none in that coronary care unit, which was 566. And then you get relatives of some of these white patients coming in, and you would see how they look at you with disdain, disbelief, whether or not you are qualified enough to look after their relatives. I remember the one time there was a patient who was coming from London and then had a heart attack on the way to South Africa when this middle-aged man landed at the Johannesburg International Airport. He was quickly rushed to Johannesburg General Hospital, where I was on call. And invariably, I had to tube him, put him on a ventilator, stabilize him. And within an hour, I don't know how many calls I got from Liverpool. And then I had all these guys wanting to know who I am, where did I train, how is their relative, do I think, he's going to make it, am I sure? So, and you could actually sense in their questioning, the line of questioning, that these guys didn't have faith in my ability to manage their relatives. So these were some of the things. And then the other experience that I can share is also of the then head of the department, Professor John Barlow. May his soul rest in peace. He's no longer with us. Who also, though I was a registrar, didn't seem to have faith in me as a registrar. I remember the one time, I'm sure some of you who watch cricket, you will know of a person called Albie During, who is a friend of the Dr. Ali Bacha, who used to be the chair or president of Cricket South Africa. His father sustained a heart attack whilst they were at Wanderers, and he had to be rushed to Johannesburg General Hospital. And unfortunately, I was on call. I had to admit him into the high care, into the ICU, coronary care unit. And during the treatment, his heart rate went down. And then I quickly took him to a small theater within the ICU. I put in a lead which assists your heart to beat faster, and I saved his life. But this didn't go too well with my consultant at the time, who was the head of the department, because he just didn't believe that I was able to do that. I'm telling you, I got a tongue lashing. Who do you think you are? Why did you do that? What if you had missed it? What if you had bled? I mean, all sorts of things. Rather than to thank me for having saved the life, which Albie During and Dr. Alibaha did, because they were so amazed at how quickly I reacted and how quickly I saved the life in front of their eyes, but not to my head of department. So those are some of the experiences that I had. And then I went to write my exam exactly at the end of my third year. And you won't believe this. I would want it that it must be recorded. I had to be compromised in Cape Town because one, I wrote without the permission of the head of the department. Secondly, I wrote before the end of my time, which is 4 years. And I mean, most of the senior examiners who were there, they were so surprised to see how much I knew at that time. And they were baffled. But my head of department did not have faith in me and decided to sacrifice me and fail me. And that pained me. And it took me exactly 2 years before I could recover and go again and write that exam and pass it. So it's some of the things that one went through. And then having passed, then I said, okay, fine. What is it that I need to do? Then, I mean, my passion was in cardiology. So I went to the head of the department, who, by the way, as I said, didn't seem to have any faith in me. So I went and tested him. So his answer was sweet and short. He didn't want me to come and train. And these are his exact words. I quote him verbatim. You blacks, you don't seem to get satisfied. We train you for your undergraduate to become a doctor. You don't go and serve your people. You come, we admit you here, we train, you become a physician. You don't want to go and treat your and take care of your people. You now want to come here and train as a cardiologist. Where are you going to practice with this? I don't have a post for you here. So that was the sweet, short answer that I got. Yet I knew there were posts that were at the time reserved for people who were behind me. Fortunately, I had friends like Professor Joe Veriava, who still continues to be my mentor and my friend. I work with him in most of the work that we do for the National Department of Health, mainly the training of students in the Cuban program. He had a post that he gave me. So the following week, here I am with rejuvenated energy, went, confronted Professor John Bala and said, Professor, you don't need to worry about the post. I have a post. All I need to be trained to become a cardiologist. So this old man changed. He became red. He said, you really don't give up, eh? I said to him, I told you, Professor, I wanted to become a cardiologist. And I'm not going to change because you don't want me to be in your department. So that's how I got into cardiology, in short. And safe to say, at the end of my training at Wits, which also had its ups and downs, but I enjoyed it. Because when you are in an environment, when you know that you are not welcome, you tend to show your best and do the best every time you get the chance, you excel. So that's what I had to do when I was at best. And hence, when I was approached to come over to the then Medunsa, everybody at this, I mean, they literally lamented the loss that they were going to have in me leaving them, coming over to Medunsa. So that's my story in short.
Yes, thank you, Prof. It's such a touching story, very, very touching. And of note, the app is going to kick us out, and then we'll have to just log in back, I think in the next, less than a minute. But the question that I have when we log back, Prof, is that, do you think, before that, how did you overcome that? Definitely we can say it was a discrimination or racism because of color, but how did you overcome that? Did you have people that were helping you cope? How was the coping mechanism that helped you to overcome that? Thank you.
Yeah, I need to tell you one thing. When you are faced with adversity, you should not buckle and give up and throw in the towel. I was lucky in that God had given me the brains. So when I was the registrar, I had some senior and brilliant consultants who took a liking in me. For instance, Professor Mntla, whom I still have close contact with up to now. When I worked in his ward 18 and 19 at Hillbrow, he was very satisfied with the amount. No, I'm saying when I got to Hillbrow, what helped me was that God had helped me in terms of giving me brains.
Mm-hmm.
So I exerted myself, knowing that at least, I mean, I wouldn't struggle. And therefore, what that did, it made some of the consultants whom I worked with, like Professor Mntla, who was the head of a unit and ran 2 wards at Hillbrow, 18 and 19. He took a great liking in me and therefore allowed me to work and do things up to a certain level. And then when I felt like consulting, then I had people who were more than willing to assist whenever I consulted and would guide me. So that was the one thing. Then the second thing, because I was, at the time amongst the trailblazers to be at Hillbrow, I was working in the sea of white registrars, even at Hillbrow. Then the senior registrars, because of the keenness that I had, they also took a liking in me. I remember, the chair of the Reg committee, Paul Smullen, who unfortunately has left the country. He's one of the world-renowned infectious specialists now residing in Canada. We worked together in Ward 18. So we would sit and would discuss each and every patient so that by the time we did the ward round the following day, each and every patient was properly discussed. So it became smooth sailing for me. And then that luck continued because when I had to change from Prof Mntla's unit, I went and worked in Ward 16 and 17. That was run by Professor Barry Joffe, one of the country's top endocrinologists. And he also took a great liking in me because he made me in charge of those 2 wards, even though I was still junior at the end of my first year. So that gave me the confidence to say and to also see that I had the ability to be able to be amongst this sea of white people. And some of them, I mean, they were chosen because they were brilliant at being at Wales or UCT. So that was the thing. And the other thing that then happened at the time, I was joined by Professor Mntla, who's just retired now at University of Limpopo. So, and then the 2 of us, we became the 2 loners, and we would be taking each other because when he joined, he was very senior, about to write the exam. And then I joined him and read around the cases he was presenting. And then over the weekends, we would come and discuss cases. You can imagine I was still in my end of my first year, beginning of my second year when he was preparing to write his exams. And here I am. I'm behaving as if I'm also writing exam tomorrow with him. So that's the other thing that helped me through that. And then the other one was then we were joined by Professor Mntla. He's come back from New Zealand. He's now our pulmonologist here at SMU. So, and then we became the threesome. Then there was Professor Mntla, although he came after I had attempted my first attempt at the exam. So, and then I think me being at Wits, it opened the door for some other African registrars who had the potential to become physicians to be admitted there. And I think I'm not trying to blow my horn here. If I didn't exert myself, if I didn't show the dedication, I don't think it would, the whites at Wits would have openly have opened the doors to any other black other than me. But because they saw what I did, and then they were more amenable into admitting other African registrars into the circuit. So those were some of the things that helped me when I was at Wits. And then I made friends with some of the colleagues that I was with, some of whom I still am with now. And strangely enough, all of them who we were close friends with, we all ended up in cardiology, becoming cardiologists.
So in terms of that, I can see that it was sort of, a gradual, increasing gradient in terms of your studies and also you being, able to become the best or being able to achieve things. So I want to ask, were you like the student in undergrad, like were you a student who was always focused, because this is watched by also students and also definitely when you go to the registrarship, how you manage to study there. But for the undergrad year, just to take it back, were you always the student to, study, perform high, that motivated you to become a registrar?
Yeah, if I take you back, when I got to Medunsa, before I came here as a student, from my Form 1 up to Form 5, I used to be top of the class. So that was, and then when I did my BSc, because of work, then my grades were sort of mid. They were not top, but somehow I managed to be admitted to Medunsa. When I got to Medunsa, yes, I was very focused because even when I got involved in the politics, where I had to lead as the secretary of the local branch of Azaso, but I was still focused, because that was the one thing that I said, and most of the colleagues that I was with agreed to, that if you cannot perform academically, you should not lead the students. That was our motto, that you had to perform academically, then you can lead the students, because the way you behave as a student leader, it has to be the same way you behave academically, so that you lead by example. So that even if you say to the students, we are not going for the following reasons, we think we need to embark, say, on a strike, we need to embark on a certain action, then the students would follow you, because they know you're not doing this because you're struggling academically. So that was our motto. And fortunately, at the time, all of us who were in the student leadership, we were not stragglers.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. And now going to the registrarship years, I think that's the time, I'm not, if not specific, the time that a lot of fellows, they become, family men, they start a family. And just imagining or looking back that you were also, upping the game in your registrarship year, and probably you had to start the family. Did you start the family then? And how was it to juggle the two?
Yeah, I was fortunate in that I met my wife after I had attempted the first time, and I was compromised. I was sacrificed, not compromised. So then when I met her, it was at that time when I felt I needed to have somebody who I could share my pain with, because really, that to me was very devastating. So, and I think if I didn't meet her, I wouldn't have had the courage to say I'm not quitting. If I didn't meet her, I would have quit. I mean, I can tell you that. But because I had her, so I didn't quit, because she told me, you can't quit. Because if you have never failed in your whole life, you can't suddenly, because you failed once, and think that you are a failure in life. So that was sad. So yes, it did give me uh, something to think about, and also a challenge that because I remember when I wrote and passed after 2 years, my first daughter, she was about a year or so. So it was difficult, I mean, to sit, concentrate, and write notes and prepare for the exam when you have a small child. But between the two of us, myself and my wife, we managed to at least see to it that, and take turns and see to it that our daughter grew up with parental love. And fortunately, when I wrote, what also made it much easier was that I wrote adverts when the exam was on home ground. So I didn't have to fly away to Cape Town or to Stellenbosch or to Durban. So I wrote whilst the exam was at home. So I would drive from home into the exam center and therefore come back home. So that's what made it easy for me when I went again and wrote the exam. And I must say, it does help also to have someone who has got a common vision as you are. For those who want to become registrars and are also thinking of having families, it does, for me, that was the one magic wand that helped me, to have somebody as your life partner who is focused and also is a keen academic. because my wife, immediately I finished with she then embarked on a master's program. And from the master's program, she went on to do a PhD in nursing. And through all of that, I was there at her side, supporting her, buying her first computer, and then running up and down, submitting her assignments and all those to her supervisors. So that did help me.
Oh, okay. Now, thank you, Prof. And to the guys on the floor, please, if you have any questions to Prof that you'd like to ask him, please, you can type down, or you can. I'll give the option to unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and ask Prof any question that you like. So, Prof, in terms of definitely, before I go to the part of coming back, I mean, us who want to maybe, or people who are interested in medicine, I just wanted to ask what drives you, firstly, in terms of, like being soft to students. We have seen other doctors, we've seen other professors, but you let the students be, you let them be comfortable. Why is it something within you? Is it something that you realize that students need to be welcomed? Maybe if you can, you can start with that.
No, thanks for that question. I mean, it is, really humbling. For me, I need to share with you that, which is something that I saw when I was at Wits. Most people who are now heads of departments, some here within SMU, others at Wits, others in Pretoria, will tell you, when there were students rotating at Wits and they were blacks, and by that I mean either colored, Indian, or Africans, this is the one thing that I did, and I did this deliberately, that having had to undergo such challenges at Wits, I could see, because as a registrar, you see what happens, where you find that some of the white consultants are taking some of the top students, white students, in a corner during certain times and are taking them around patients, because they'll come to you and say, hey, who is the most interesting amongst the patients here? Then you would try to find out why they're asking that. And you will see them behind curtains with a group of white students. And when you look at them, they are the so-called top students, or students whose fathers are known. And they may be professors, or they may be the people who have got a certain social standing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, which is deliberate, and here, I mean, you can go to someone like Professor Mntla, because he was amongst the first students that I took. I decided that if that be the case, I would also make sure that I take the African students who were at Wits at the time in clinical medicine, and I would teach them. So I started off with them as a group of students in their third year and in their fourth year. I took them almost every afternoon whenever they had time. And also over the weekends, I'd sacrifice my time and took them. And this is what I quickly realized. Students, they learn better when they are not under any stress, when you make them relax, when you make them to ask anything, and you tell them that, look, there is no question which to me is a stupid question. Because for me, each and every question that you ask, it is a telling question, because it says to me, there is something that I need to impart to you that you surely do not understand. So that's the one thing. Then the second thing that drove me to have the certain demeanor that I showed to the student is how I went through medicine. I went through medicine in an era where people, they didn't believe in sitting down with you and explaining the concepts properly to you, where they would come in and rattle through things and tell you, for this, you can tell this in terms of A, B, C, D to Z. And then I said to myself, look, I would dare not do that to any student where I want them to learn like parrots. Because learning in a parrot fashion, should you dare forget one thing, then that whole understanding is gone. Whereas if you sit down with someone and you show them and you teach them in a compassionate way, it's easy for them to remember things. So that was the thing. It was how I was taught, which I felt it was totally unacceptable. And it was how I saw African students at Wits being discriminated, that I thought then I would make it my mission to make sure that those African students, at least I expose them to the knowledge that I thought they needed to have as students. So that was what drove me to become who I am and to have the attitude that I have towards students.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. And we really appreciate that, Prof. You know, when we do have those classes from 3 p.m. till 6, you know, we know that we can be asking any question, you know. And there is a question from Mntla. Yeah, Mntla, there's a hand. So Mntla, you might unmute yourself, then ask Prof any question. Yeah, you may go ahead, Mntla.
Hello, am I audible that side?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I can hear you, Mntla.
Oh, okay. Evening, Prof and General. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the platform, and thank you, Prof, for availing yourself to engage with us outside the academic walls of SMU. So, I just recently graduated at SMU, and the question I have is, with regard to supernumerary post, if someone is interested in studying further to become a physician, what are the routes and the minimum requirements that they're needed to secure a post that side of SMU if I want to come as a supernumerary reg?
Yeah, to answer you, Mntla, thank you for the question. The supernumerary, you can come as a supernumerary, one, because you may find that your province where you come from is going to pay for your studies. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
Two, either through Netcare or any other available, I'm just trying to think now of other available avenues or scholarships that you can have. But the big catch is there has to be a training post that you have to come into.
Okay.
Even if you're not going to be appointed within the hospital training pool of registrars, as long as there's a training post, because one should not come and waste your time and train without being trained against a post. Because at the end of your training, you need to, when you register, you need to show that you were trained against a recognized post. So that's the one thing that needs to be there. And otherwise, I mean, for supernumerary registrars, you need to understand that, one, you will have to be paid from either a scholarship point of view. Yeah, the other one is Discovery. Yeah, now I've remembered. It's either from Discovery or Netcare or from your province. Then Also the hours that you need to do, which are the overtime hours, as long as can be negotiated with either the people who are going to give you the scholarship or your province that is sending you to train here, that they will cover that as well. Because what I've discovered is that people who are in supernumerary posts, they do not want to do the overtime because they gladly tell you, no, it's because I'm not getting paid for this. However, they forget that during your training time, most of your exposure is when you do those overtime. Because during the normal hours, you cushioned because there are other people who are there. So you do not get yourself thrown into the deep end and swim and see how deep, how far you can swim. So that's the thing. So as long as you understand, how you come in as a supernumerary post, what is expected of you during your training, and then for me, it's not a problem at all. But critically, what is most critical, I would recommend and also advise whoever wants to come on a supernumerary post, you make sure that there is a training post that you're going to be trained against. I hope I've answered you, Dr. Mntla.
Yes. I think you have answered the first part of my question, and then just to follow up, any credentials or any anything that you would advise a young fellow to, write or do to maximize chances of getting a post that side?
Yeah, it depends where you want to specialize. For argument's sake, let's take internal medicine. You want to become a specialist physician. If you want to become a specialist physician, you're sitting out there in your province. You have to, one of two things that you need to do in order to enhance your chance of being considered when you apply. One, you can do the diploma in medicine. The diploma in medicine needs you to have worked in an internal medicine unit that is recognized for training for diploma, where you would have some supervision. That supervision doesn't necessarily need to be by a specialist physician all the time. Even some of the experienced medical officers can do that. If you can write that and pass it, you stand a better chance. Then the second one is for you to be able to write the part one, which is the basic sciences, which is the physiology, the anatomy, pharmacology in internal medicine. So if you have those two, then you're set to can be considered for a training post.
Oh, all right, Prof. Thank you very much. I think I've written the part one last month, and I'm writing the diploma in HIV next week. So I think I should consider writing that internal medicine diploma early January then, and see if I can stand a chance to get a post. Thank you very much for your time, Prof, and for the answers.
No, you're welcome, Dr. Mntla.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mntla, for the questions. And I repeat again, if you guys have any questions, any questions that you have would have liked to ask Prof back then, this is the opportunity that you can ask him. Yes, Prof. So I think we're almost done now. But now, yeah, Prof, the question that I have is not the question, but also the advice to the young ones. We are going out. We have students that are going out now. They are going to start their internship. Any words to them, any advice to them? And the second one will be to those that are left in the undergrad years. What words do you have for them? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for that question. to those who are going to go and do internship, unfortunately, over the past year or two, we have had problems. And by problems, I need to put it into perspective, in that some of the people who qualified were not placed in any of their choices that they made, because they get made to choose 5 hospitals in the different provinces. So some of them were never placed in any of the first 5 choices that they made. And therefore, that meant that they had to wait until certain places were opened and for them to have been placed. So what I think they need to do, they need firstly, they need to do their research and see which of those hospitals has posts that are going to be vacant at the time that they finish their student internship, their final year. For instance, if you're finishing in December and you want to go, for argument's sake, to Rob Ferreira Hospital in Mpumalanga, then do your research, find out how many posts Rob Ferreira will have by the 1st of January, the year that you start your internship, so that then you know the likelihood of you getting a post there. Because if they have got 40 posts that they are accredited for their first year interns, and those 40 posts will be available, then the likelihood of you getting a post there is high. So I think that's what people need to do for all the 5 choices that they do. They need to do that research for those hospitals, so that then you know what the likelihood is for you to get that. Then the second thing that they need to do, they need to be able to talk to the people who are assigned to place the interns within the department, the National Department of Health. You must nag them. Because if you don't do that, you run the risk of sitting at home for the next, and it becomes worse now. It would be the next 6 months if you're not placed in January, because your next placement would be in July. You can imagine having finished in December and everybody in your village, some of us who come from villages, get so excited that in our village we're having a doctor, and for 6 months, this very same doctor that the village has been boasting about is sitting amongst them and has got nowhere to go, waiting for July. So that's one other thing that I think we should not allow to happen. Let's put pressure on our government and also put pressure on the employees that are tasked to make sure that there is seamless placement of interns. So that's the one thing that I would say. Then for those who are remaining within the university, I think all is not lost, especially at SMU. This is what I tell the students all the time. All is not lost. Where you finding problems, please do not shy away. This is what I say to each and everybody, that when you apply to come to SMU, you never applied to come to SMU because you had either Mntla is coming there. You only met Mntla when you had SMU. So now why should Mntla bother you as to what you know and what you don't know? So, and I see, because I'm saying this from the experience that I have had of seeing students at Wits or in Cape Town who, when they do not understand concepts, they go and make appointment to see their lecturers and to say to them, I do not understand this. can you please explain this to me? I think we need to make nuisances of ourselves to our lecturers. That's why they are here. Otherwise, if we don't do that, these guys won't have their job. What is it that they are doing? Who are they lecturing? Who are they imparting the knowledge to? If we don't bother them to make sure that they share and impart that knowledge to us. So that's what I would encourage students at SMU. Then the other thing that really pains me about SMU students is we do not have faith in ourselves as students at SMU. It's always we sort of relegate ourselves to amongst the last in the queue. And I don't understand why. We always look up at students from WITS, students from UCT, students from Stellenbosch, and we think that they are the best, they are better than us. I tell you that this now. Students at SMU, because I've examined in all these universities, students at SMU are amongst the best students in this country. Because one, you have heads of departments and lecturers who are passionate about what they're doing, want to impart the best knowledge to you as students at SMU. Let us grab that opportunity with both arms and run away with it and be proud to say, I am an SMU graduate.
Yes, Prof. We are left with 4 minutes, and I have a few questions, and maybe if you just take 1 minute per question. The first one is, after how long can we expect you? Like the likes of Dr. Mntla want to come back. Can they come back in 2 years, in 3 years? As one trying to come in 5 years, will we find you there? And then the second one is you gave us your background, and are we going to see the prints or the book of this background? Are you planning to write a book, or having something to look for the young ones to come and look at to say that Prof is this type of a person? And from there, the last words will be any words that you'd like to share that you couldn't share. Thank you, Prof.
Yeah, regarding the first question, unfortunately, I mean, being an employee of being a public servant, at a certain age, I need to leave. And that is not too far away. Because come 2024, end of 2024, I unfortunately have to leave. And it's painful that when one looks at that, not because I'm speaking for myself here, institutions like SMU do not want to take advantage of the opportunities that they have. Because, for instance, at WITS, most of the people that I was talking about, they sat at WITS until beyond the age of 70, others close to 80 when they left. And others are still there running their research lab whilst also doing postgraduate mentoring. But at SMU and George Mkari, once you reach 65 and PERSAL kicks you out, it's a bye-bye and goodbye to you. So therefore, I hope that by the time I reach my 65, the attitude will have changed. And the dawn, the new dawn will be there at SMU and Dr. George Mkari to say some of the people in whom this institution can take cue.
Prof.
We have to.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to the next one.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah. Then I'll be happy with that. Then the second question, that in terms of a book, yes, I mean, I've been persuaded in the last year or two by people, one, to write a book on clinical examination. So it's something that I'm seriously considering. But I'll need to take time off and then do that. Then the last one, in terms of what is it that I would want to say to people? I mean, I would want to say to people, let the sky be the limit. And also, I would want to say to people, when you finish your MBCHB, let that not be the limit to you. You need to know that you can get your fellowship, your master's, and even go further than that to get your PhD. Because some of us, I mean, we had to go through a difficult time raising children, being a family man, to go through all of that. So I think that's what we need to do, because for me, I would like to see SMU being led at each and every department and subunit by people who've got all PhDs. Then to me, that would be the best ever. So for me, that would be the best thing. If each and every department is led by someone, and it's irrespective of gender, whether it's male or female, who's got a PhD. And then the last thing that I need to share, but this is confidentially.
About treating you generously. That's why I've stipulated in the contract that your contributions to our.
Sorry, Prof. Yeah, I'm sorry, I muted you. I was muting someone there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you may go ahead, Prof. You're saying the last thing you'd like to share, which is confidential?
Yeah, the last thing I need to share, but it's highly confidential. I have written to the Mntla Foundation on behalf of the university and the hospital to say, can they please look at assisting the university and the hospital into building a state-of-the-art tertiary quaternary hospital. So I received a response today which said they are looking at that. They will come back to me.
Yeah, thank you. Hopefully we'll get one of the state-of-the-art, Prof, like the Charlotte Makweke, the Steve Biko, and yeah.
Now I want something better than those. Something better. If you have been to Inkosi Albert Lutuli, I want something of that or better than Inkosi Albert Lutuli Academic Hospital in Durban. So that's what I would want to see. And that hospital, it's unfortunate in terms of the leadership within the institution. I wouldn't want to say anything. That hospital, I would want the university to have a stranglehold in that, so that it's not only run by the hospital management. The university also must have a fair share of running in that hospital, so that they are in a position to say, if a student gets in that hospital and comes into a cardiology, this is what we expect the student to learn. This is the outcome that we expect when that student is through cardiology. Currently, no, it doesn't happen. The university has got no say into what the students' clinical acquisition should be once they go through Dr. George Mukhari Academic Hospital.
Okay, Prof. No, thank you. Just to add some spice there, I saw that you got the X7, Prof. How is it?
Now you can ask my son Sandile, because he's the one who is yeah, but he drives very nicely, that car, I can tell you. Yes. The only problem about it, yes, I mean, yeah, it doesn't drive smoothly on the gravel road. Worse off on the road that is stony. Those big wheels, they tend to puncture me. Yeah. So I've had to replace 2 tires. And each of those tires costs you not less than 8,000
Each. Oh. Oh, okay.
That's the unfortunate part. But otherwise, no, that the X7, I mean, I've driven the GL 500, but when I compare it to the X7 far beats the GL 500.
Yeah.
Not only in terms of comfort,
Yes.
but also in terms of you young ones, you like speed and you like good takeoff.
Yeah, yes, we do. But yes, Prof, thanks for your time. You know, I really appreciate this, and I believe that a lot of people have learned a lot from this talk, and that they're still going to when they watch this video later. So I really appreciate your time, and please, Prof, continue being the good professor, you know, allowing students to reach out and be comfortable. Thank you, Prof.
You're welcome, General Korombi. Nah, for me, that's the only thing. Otherwise, I would have long gone into private practice and made millions. But I thought, and this is, you won't believe, this is a decision I took and I made when I was in my third year, which was 1981. Those of you those who you know who were with me, like Konfi, Dr. Lengane, who is a pediatrician, were in the same class, Dr. Tula, they will tell you, this is what I told them, that I'll never see myself. I don't see myself in private practice. And I see myself imparting knowledge. And I'm happy that I'm true to what I preached and what I said at the time.
Okay, Prof. No, I've exhausted all my questions, and anyone that has questions to Prof, please ask before we close, because we've come to the end of our talk with Prof. So is there anyone on the floor that has any question? Yeah, one is asking that one life lesson that you like to share, Prof.
Yeah, the one life lesson that I would want to share is, as Africans, we should never, ever, ever believe that someone else can determine our destination. We need to shape, and we need to make sure that we live our dreams. No one else should live our dreams. We should be the ones who make sure that we live our dreams and we shape our own destination.
Okay. Yes, Prof. In the absence of any questions, then I will have to close our talk, Prof. And thank you again for making a time.
No, thank you very much, guys. For me, it has been a great pleasure to share my experience with all of you. Though when I started off, it was very painful. But I think when I look back, I think I don't have to regret a single minute of it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I stood up, and I'm happy that I took a resolution that no matter what, I will attain what I had set myself to attain.
Okay, Prof. Yeah, those with ears have heard, and yes, Prof have said it. So yeah, thanks to everyone who joined us, and thanks to Prof. And yeah, I'll be signing out, and goodbye to everybody. Prof, are you still there?
No, I'm signing off.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to everyone.
Thanks very much, General.
Thank you.